Hello and welcome back to Nerd Doc. In this video we're going to explain what exactly is going on in the Amsterdam movie. There will be spoilers for the movie in this video. There are chapter timestamps so you can jump around the video as you wish, and since Amsterdam is still in theaters, we can only use footage from the trailers, so please bear with us there. If you have any questions about our explanation, or if we missed anything, leave a comment below and we'll respond as best we can. Amsterdam is primarily set in and around New York in 1933. There is some historical fact in the film, which we'll discuss at the end of this video, but most of the movie is fictional. Some of the main characters in Amsterdam are Dr. Burt Berenson, who was a Park Avenue doctor, meaning he deals with the upper class more often than not. Dr. Berenson is married to Beatrice van den Heuvel, daughter of a wealthy doctor, and his best friend is Harold Woodman, an accomplished lawyer. Burt and Harold met in France in 1918 during World War I. Their commanding officer, General Bill Meekins, assigned Burt to take charge of Harold's regiment. During that time, African American soldiers were not treated as equals, and Harold refused to follow the orders of his former commander due to the discrimination they faced. Burt agreed to watch Harold's back so long as Harold watched his back, and the two created a bond that turned into a lifelong friendship. After getting injured on the battlefield, Burt and Harold are taken to a hospital in France where they run into Valerie, who was working there as a nurse. Valerie and Harold start a romantic relationship, but unbeknownst to Burt and Harold, Valerie is actually a member of the Voze family, who are rich and well-connected back in the United States. Valerie introduces Harold and Burt to Paul Canterbury and Henry Norcross, undercover agents for MI6 and Naval Intelligence, respectively. After spending some time in Amsterdam, Burt decides that he needs to go back to his wife in New York. He leaves Harold and Valerie and heads back to the US where he treats veterans suffering from various ailments of war. Unfortunately, due to the high-class status of Burt's Park Avenue practice, as well as the status of his in-laws, he's unable to continue practicing on Park Avenue. He ends up treating veterans in a back alley and eventually winds up in jail. Valerie, Harold, and Burt made a pact to always look out for one another, but when Harold told Valerie that he would go back to the US to help Burt, Valerie left without warning. In her mind, it was better to just leave instead of waiting to be left. Valerie returned to the US and used her family status to get Burt out of jail. Harold and Burt knew nothing of Valerie's efforts to free Burt, nor her whereabouts after she left Amsterdam. Fast forward back to 1933, and Burt and Harold's former commanding officer, General Meekins, now Senator Meekins, has passed away under suspicious circumstances. Still hidden behind the scenes, Valerie tells the general's daughter, Elizabeth Meekins, to request the help of Burt and Harold. Burt performs an autopsy and discovers Senator Meekins was in fact poisoned on the ship while coming back to the US after a recent trip to Italy. Shortly after, Harold and Burt are framed for the murder of Liz Meekins, and this starts them on a crazy adventure uncovering a Nazi conspiracy plot. During their adventure, they run into Tom Voss and his wife Libby at their mansion. It's here that they're reunited with Valerie and discover she's actually Tom's sister and has been living in the New York area all this time. Valerie didn't reach out to Harold because of the racial issues of the time, but also because she thought she was ill and was embarrassed for Harold to see her in such a state. They had such a wonderful romantic time together in Amsterdam, and Valerie didn't want those memories to be soured by her presumed illness. As it turns out, Valerie's brother was subduing her personality with medication. Valerie had already proven herself troublesome when she went off to Europe the first time, and Tom was working with Nazi sympathizers to overthrow the US government. He didn't want Valerie getting in the way, so he put her on medication under the false pretenses that it would prevent epileptic seizures. This was all one big plot to get the attention of General Gil Dillenbeck, one of the most decorated Marines in US history. The Nazi conspirators, including Tom Voss and his wife, as well as several other wealthy American businessmen who called themselves the Committee of the Five, wanted Dillenbeck to use the power and public perception of military veterans to overthrow the US government with hidden support from the Nazi Party. Dillenbeck would then serve in a dictator-like role similar to that of Hitler or Mussolini. Luckily, Dillenbeck was on the right side of history and was good friends with Senator Meekins, who was the Axis power's first choice to take control of the US government. When Meekins denied their request after Mussolini ran over a child and didn't even bat an eye, they executed a plan to poison him and shift their focus to Dillenbeck. With the help of MI6 and Naval Intelligence, Dillenbeck, Burt, Valerie, and Harold are able to thwart the plan. However, if their plan had succeeded, the US would have allied with Italy, Germany, and Japan during World War II, and history would have been very different. Throughout the film, there are small hints toward Nazi favoritism. For example, Burt's in-laws show numerous anti-Semitic tendencies, which Burt's wife plays off by saying that Burt is only half Jewish, so it's okay. In addition, the symbol used by the Committee of the Five resembles a swastika, and the landscaping in front of Tom Voss's mansion is also a swastika. While it's debatable how factual the events of the film were, there is some historical relevance. As one of the most star-studded films releasing this year, Amsterdam is a work of fiction that is rooted in historical events. Dr. Burt Berenson was based on a real person known as Dr. Shields. Valerie's unique artwork was based on the art of Merritt Oppenheim, Hannah Hoche, and Georgia O'Keeffe. General Dillenbeck is based on Major General Smedley Butler, also known as the Maverick Marine. While Butler was quite decorated, he was also involved in what history refers to as the business plot. This is what the main plot of the film is based on. The business plot was a political conspiracy in 1933 in which wealthy businessmen plotted to create a fascist veterans organization to overthrow President Roosevelt. The organization was meant to be led by Major General Butler. While there has been some debate as to how close these wealthy businessmen came to executing their plot, it's widely believed that some sort of quote-unquote wild scheme was in various stages of execution. During Butler's testimony to Congress, which was very similar to Dillenbeck's testimony at the end of the movie, he recounted the tale of Cornelius Vanderbilt IV riding with Mussolini when his car ran over a child. While this was denied by the Italian government, it's another example of historical events factoring into the movie. The main difference is that Vanderbilt was not a general like Meekins, and he wasn't killed by Mussolini's men on his way home. Going further back, in the movie, Harold Woodman and Burt Berenson met during World War I. Harold was part of the 369th, which was a real, all-black U.S. regiment that served in France during World War I. While the white U.S. soldiers told the French people not to fraternize with the African Americans, most of the French ignored these requests and many multiracial relationships were formed. The 369th fought side by side with French soldiers as equals, and earned an unprecedented number of French military honors, including 171 Croix de Guerre medals, which was the highest honor of the French military. Many of the African American soldiers had hoped their service would earn them cultural acceptance back in the US, but that did not happen. Most of Europe was much more progressive back then, and still are in many ways, especially Amsterdam. This is why Valerie wanted to stay in Amsterdam with Harold, and why she said they couldn't be together in the US. During the 1930s, multiracial couples in the US were generally looked down upon, but with Valerie being an aristocrat, it would have been even worse for her and Harold. We don't know where Valerie and Harold go at the end of the movie, but the reason they couldn't go back to Amsterdam was because it was occupied by the Germans during World War II and wouldn't have been safe for them by 1940, just a few years after the events of the film. As you can see, while Amsterdam is a fictional movie, there's a good portion of the main story that was based on historical events. So what did you think of the stellar cast in Amsterdam? How well did it walk the line between historical fact and fiction? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For now, that wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves Margot Robbie and historical fiction.